Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're skipping the noise and getting straight to the point on, well, probably the most anticipated annual launch in luxury spirits. The Diageo Special Releases, the DSR, for 2025.
Exactly. And our goal isn't just to read off a list. We're really digging into the key insights from an expert analysis by Ulrich Bertelsen, who shared some early details.
Okay.
And crucially, we want to look at this through the lens of the market itself, using his operation, Whisky.dk, as a guide to why these bottles actually matter.
Right. The DSR, it's been around for what, over 20 years?
Yeah.
Always bring out these exclusive single malts from Diageo's, well, huge portfolio of distilleries. And the theme for 2025, according to the sources, seems to be all about pushing the envelope, innovation, and serious rarity.
That's really the core idea here. DSR bottlings, they aren't just, older versions of the standard stuff. They're very deliberate, limited reinterpretations.
Reinterpretations, how so?
Well, often using really specific, sometimes experimental aging techniques or maybe even unique distillation methods. And for collectors, a key thing is their bottled at cask strength.
Okay, cask strength. For anyone maybe not familiar with that term, what does that actually mean for the whiskey, for the person drinking it?
It just means it hasn't been watered down much, or at all, before bottling. It's basically straight from the barrel.
Ah.
So the alcohol percentage, the ABV, is much higher, usually well over 50%.
Wow.
And that concentration gives you this incredibly intense, richer flavor, a different texture. It's partly why they're so sought after. You're getting the purest expression of that unique cask or experiment.
Got it. Okay, let's unpack this. If the theme is innovation, then 2025 sounds like it's not just refining things, but maybe challenging what Scotch even is. And this is where it gets really interesting, right? There are three specific whiskeys showing off some pretty radical cask choices. Let's start with the Singleton of Glen Ord.
Yeah, this one's fascinating. Just the sheer audacity of bringing in influences from way outside the usual Scotch playbook.
Right.
So this is the Singleton of Glen Ord 17-year-old. The name they've given it is Into the Blue. It's a Highland malt, but the maturation is, well, exotic.
Exotic how?
Partially aged in ex-mezcal casks.
Mezcal. Okay, that is a curveball for Scots.
Definitely. And that's alongside second fill ex-sherry casks.
Wow. Mezcal casks.
Yeah.
Especially for a potentially delicate Highland like Glen Ord, how do they even balance that Singleton character with those, intense, smoky, earthy notes from mezcal wood?
Well, it seems to create this huge contrast, almost paradoxical.
Yeah.
The tasty notes suggest you still get that Singleton sweetness, dried fruit, caramel, vanilla, likely from the sherry side.
Okay.
But then it's cut through with this really exotic, almost savory edge. Agave notes, and a specific kind of dry smoke you get from mezcal casks.
Interesting.
And using second fill sherry is probably key there. Those casks give less intense color and flavor than first fill would.
Right, leaves more room for the mezcal to show up.
Exactly. Enough room for it to stand out without completely dominating the spirit.
That really does sound like a maturation tightrope walk. Okay, moving from the Highlands to the coast. Another whiskey where the innovation isn't the cask's origin, but how the wood itself was treated. The Talisker 14-year-old Molten Seas.
Yes, the finishing technique here is pretty unique. This Talisker was finished in new American oak.
Okay, new oak, quite active.
And this is the twist, the oak was toasted using sky stones. They're literally using the local geography in the cask preparation.
Toasting wood changes its chemistry, sure, affecting the flavor compounds. But why specifically local stones? Is that adding flavor, or is it more about the story, the branding?
It's probably a bit of both, but the effect seems tangible. Toasting, that heat treatment, changes the surface of the oak. It can push those vanilla and caramel notes deeper in, maybe mellow out some harsher tannins. And the reports describe a really powerful profile that's still definitely Talisker. That intense sea air, salt, pepper.
The classic notes.
Right. But that sharp maritime character is apparently really well balanced by the sweetness from this specially toasted American oak. It sounds like smoky, spicy, but still rounded. Intense.
Fascinating. And the third one in this radical group is a total departure, ingredient-wise. The teenage 8-year-old Rye Rebel. Sources say this is the distillery's first rye experiment.
Yeah, and this is a really important innovation. technically speaking. It's labeled as a single-grain Scotch whiskey.
Single grain, not single malt.
Correct. Created using rye and matured in ex-bourbon casks. Remember, standard single malt Scotch has to be 100% malted barley.
Oh, okay.
Single grain whiskey, though, allows other grains, usually wheat or maize, but in this case, rye.
So they're kind of borrowing mash bill ideas from American whiskey, like rye whiskey, but making it in Scotland so it's still technically Scotch.
Exactly that. And it lets them capture that distinctive spicy rye character, the pepper, maybe cinnamon, clove, alongside sweeter grain notes. It creates a flavor profile totally unlike traditional teenage. It's described as bold, lively, spicy, really leveraging techniques from outside the usual Scotch world.
Okay, from radical experiments, let's pivot. The DSR always includes some seriously rich, deeply matured whiskeys too, which brings us to, let's call it, mastering the dark arts, the sherry and peat powerhouses.
Indeed. And we start with pure depth here. Diageo 21-year-old marbled treasures. This one is all about traditional dark maturation. It spent its entire life, 21 years, in Spanish ex-sherry casks.
21 years, only in sherry wood. That's a huge commitment. Financially and stylistically, what does that long bath and Spanish oak deliver?
Density, mainly. The flavor profile sounds incredibly concentrated, thick, dark. The notes hit all those classic sherry buttons: dark raisins, stewed plums, rich coffee, dark chocolate, walnuts.
Sounds intense.
Yeah, and the texture is described as oily, complex. That perfect balance of deep sweetness and a sort of dry, tannic spice you only really get from decades in quality Spanish oak.
Then we hit the peat icon, Lagavulin. The Lagavulin 12-year-old grain and embers. It sounds like it marries that classic Islay smoke with a more modern sherry influence.
It's a beautiful combination on paper. Maturation was in a mix of refill casks.
Refill, so less wood influence there.
Yeah.
Lets the Lagavulin's spirit shine.
Exactly. Allows the distillery character to dominate. But then it's combined with European oak that previously held both Pedro Ximénez PX and Oloroso sherry.
PX and Oloroso, those are very different styles of sherry, aren't they? How does using both shape the whiskey?
Dramatically different. PX is super sweet, almost syrupy like liquid raisins or molasses.
Yeah.
It brings the dark color and the sugar.
Right.
Oloroso, on the other hand, is typically much drier, nuttier. It provides complexity, spice, structure.
Okay, so you get both ends of the spectrum.
Precisely. So the resulting balance sounds spectacular. You've got the aggressive peat smoke, ash, salt from the Lagavulin.
Classic Lagavulin profile.
But it's countered not just by simple sweetness, but by this layered richness. Caramelized nuts, deep chocolate notes, thanks to that dual sherry influence. It sounds smoky, hugely complex, but with fruit clinging beautifully to those savory maritime elements.
Okay, let's shift gears one more time. Our third group of releases. These aren't necessarily about radical casks or super long sherry maturation. They seem to showcase mastery of the traditional distillery styles, but maybe with subtle twists for extra clarity or texture.
Absolutely. This is where you see real skill with the stills and standard wood management refined. Take the Clynelish 18-year-old, Wax and Sun. That age statement alone suggests refinement, honing that famous Clynelish signature, the waxy coastal texture.
And the source mentioned something interesting. It was partly made from an experimental cut. We hear cut talked about in distillation. For someone less familiar, what is the cut exactly, and why is experimenting with it significant?
The cut is basically the point during distillation when the distiller decides which part of the spirit vapor to collect. You separate the good stuff from the heads and tails, which contain less desirable compounds.
Okay.
Changing that cut point, even slightly, changes the spirit's final texture and chemical makeup. For Clynelish, which is famous for that specific waxy quality,
Right, the waxiness is key.
an experimental cut probably aimed to emphasize the heavier oils and compounds that deliver that exact texture. The result here is described as rich citrus, that unmistakable waxiness you can almost feel, honey, salted caramel, all underpinned by mineral and savory notes. It sounds like a very tactile whiskey.
That makes sense why texture is often so central when people talk about Clynelish. Next up, purity. Oban 12-year-old. Heart of the Harbor.
Yeah, this one seems to be about purity through subtraction almost. It was matured exclusively in ex-bourbon American oak.
No sherry, no wine casks.
Exactly. Unlike sherry, which can sometimes dominate, good quality ex-bourbon casks let the distillery's own character really come through.
So this is like Oban unmasked.
Pretty much. The maturation seemed designed to yield a clean, fresh Highland profile. Think crisp citrus, bright green apples, honey, those subtle maritime mineral notes Oban often has, all finishing with a kind of discreet, refreshing saltiness. It sounds like a masterclass in controlled maturation, letting the distillery be the star.
And the last one in this group, Rose Isle, 14-year-old, Harmonic Grace. Described as modern, balanced, showing the distillery's potential.
Rose Isle isn't a name most people know well. It's one of Diageo's newer, more modern distilleries. So this DSR release is important for visibility.
Right.
They apparently used various cask types, probably a mix of refill and maybe some rejuvenated oak, to create a profile described as fresh and elegant. Notes mentioned are fresh herbs, green apple, pear, a light floral touch.
So innovation here isn't a wild cask. It's about achieving perfect balance.
Exactly. Sometimes innovation is just that perfect, subtle harmony you get from expert cask selection and blending. It shows the breadth of the series.
Okay, so we've got this incredible range. Innovative casks, rye grain, classic styles refined. What does it all mean for the consumer? These are dropping October 1st, 2025, and they're always super limited.
Well, to really grasp the demand, the scarcity, we need a bit of context. Our info on these whiskeys came via Ulrich Bertelson's operation, Whisky.dk. He runs it with Henrik Olsen.
Right, you mentioned them earlier.
They started online back in 2012, and now they're described as Denmark's largest online and physical whiskey shop.
And their growth is pretty remarkable, isn't it? Winning the Danish Gazelle Prize multiple times. That award's for fast-growing, successful companies. It really shows how dynamic this specialist market is.
Absolutely. And the demand clearly goes way beyond just Scotch whiskey. If you look at Whisky.dk's inventory, it shows the incredible diversity that high-end spirits consumers are interested in now.
Yeah, I saw that. They stock everything from top-end champagne like Veuve Clicquot, Moet, and Chandon to all sorts of specialized ports. Tawny, vintage, LBV, and different sherries too. Fino, Oloroso, PX. It really suggests the kind of person buying a maybe 1,000-pound limited Talisker is also exploring other niche specialized drinks. I was struck they even list things like traditional Nordic Jet and Glug.
Yeah.
And even fan spirits, Ramstein tequila, Motorhead whiskey, Volbeat whiskey. That huge breadth caters to a really dedicated, maybe even obsessive collector base.
That massive range, plus the fact they run master classes and have this huge 500 square meter showroom near Colding. It confirms the market isn't just about scarcity. It thrives on education, engagement.
Getting hands-on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They want you to connect physically, intellectually with the depth and complexity of these spirits. It turns buying into more of a passion and exploration.
Okay, let's quickly sum up the DSR 2025 then. It looks defined by really bold experiments, mezcal casks, rye grain, stone-toasted oak sitting right alongside profound age and classic complexity, like that 21-year-old De Luane or the 18-year-old Kleinlich.
And understanding these cask experiments, I think, gives us a really crucial lens for looking at the future of Scotch. It's clearly not just about the age statement anymore. It's increasingly about the specific journey the spirit took in wood, whether that's second fill sherry, custom toasted American oak, or something totally radical like mezcal influence. Distillers are moving from just managing stock to actively designing flavor profiles.
Yeah, designing flavor, that's a great way to put it. So given that the DSR is pushing boundaries so hard, agave spirit casks, different grains, it raises a really interesting question for you, the listener. Which traditional Scottish distilleries, the ones famous for their really classic established profiles, do you think might be next in line to totally break character with some radically unconventional finish or technique?
That's a good one.
Something to think about. And that's the thought we'll leave you with until our next deep dive.